Now, if ever we were in need of a market analysis, now's the time. With the release of Saline, the RuneScape market has been probably changed more than any other update in the last few years. Not only are there literally hundreds of new items that were introduced into the game, dozens and dozens of existing items have been directly affected by Saline and some indirectly as well, culminating in some massive market swings ever since the skill released. Now we have tons of new items that have been introduced, but those prices are all new, so we don't really have any reference points. But looking at some of the existing items that have been affected by Saline, I think is really interesting. And we have a lot of them. Starting with actually an interesting one, the Dragon Hunter Wand, which peaked at 20 mil this month. That's wild. This item was down to just 3 mil a few months ago. What a resurgence for a Hoyt drop. Now the reason this is so expensive is because it's essentially the best weapon for killing frost dragons. Technically the harmonized orb is better and that also has gone up a bit, but it's such a minor difference. I think most people are not investing in it for such a minor DPS increase. That said, the Tome of Fire has gone up a ton this month, doubling in price. Once again because frost dragons have an elemental weakness, making them very effective to kill with the standard spellbook, and the Tome of Fire, Destin's Law offhand. Burning pages to go in there have also tripled in price, not surprising. Ancestral has gone up a bit as well, not only because of frost dragons, but simply just killing any monster on the ocean. Magic is a very good option. People are using the Eye of Ayak or ranged as well, but it is still seeing some use out there. And even the Seer's Ring. The Seer's Ring has doubled this month because hey, we finally got some mage only content. Now some other really big price increases this month aren't even on items that are related to Saline exactly, but Saline still has caused these items to go up. Now just as an example, we have the Dragon Knife. The Dragon Knife almost tripled in value ever since Saline was released, and this is probably why. When new exciting content like Saline comes out, a large portion of the player base will stop whatever grind or moneymaker they're currently doing to go try the new content. In this case, Saline. However, all of the people who are constantly farming a boss, some of them real players, a lot of them are bots, some of them are gold farmers, they are continuing on at moneymakers like the Delve boss, but items that they would want are now in much lower supply, such as a Dragon Knife. Nobody can really grind this out, you're kind of relying on the entire player base supplying a small amount of people with Dragon Knives. They become way rare and they triple in price. Same thing happened with the Mokoatl Waystone. I didn't even know this, but these went up to 0.5 mil at the end of November. Same thing. The supply lowered because most of the people who are doing the Delve boss stopped to do Saline, but the people farming it for money and bots, they still want the Waystones. So they start paying more and more as the supply diminishes. A couple other items I think were effective for similar reasons. We have the Dex Prayer Scroll continuing to pump upwards up to 50 mil this month. Look at the huge drop off in dexes, like a 75% drop in supply for the first day, and then immediately price starts pumping upwards. I don't know what to say about this one. I don't know if this is Saline related, but the Manta Ray, 3500 GP, that's like almost as much as the Marlin, which is way better and a brand new piece of food. Don't buy the Manta Ray. The Lunar Isle teleport, these are very slow to obtain from clue scrolls, and now people want them for port tasks because teleporting to Lunar Island to see the task selection is a very popular option. And this is a new item, but I thought it was funny. The Ray Barb, which is used to create the fishing trawling nets. When Saline released, it was only 15k because nobody needed it, but as the population leveled up, it's now a 0.5 mil item out of nowhere, which is actually just wild. Now this item is just a great illustration of the fact that we don't really know where these prices are settling yet. We have so many different factors going on, from increasing supply as the content's been out longer, but also people are leveling up more, so the demand is kind of going up with it. Mechanics could change, metas could be discovered, so we're still in early days, but yeah, tons of interesting price movements due to Saline. Now as per usual, if we are looking at the most hyped items going into Saline, those being things like the Sawmill voucher, planks, bars, nails, stuff like that, yeah, they didn't do so well after the release actually came out. Most of these items were incredibly overinflated. Let's take a look at the Sawmill voucher because that one was pretty interesting. Now people were buying these because in theory the floor price should have been something like 7,500 because making a rosewood plank costs 7,500, but the fact that these Sawmill vouchers exist kind of cannibalizes itself because you can get a plank for half price in theory. Really just getting these logs isn't as hard when there are seeds to grow them in any hardwood patch. You don't really need a saline level requirement to cut rosewood logs or any of the other ones either, so the sawmill voucher really just tanked. 6,500 at its peak down to right now about 4,000. To be fair, that's still higher than pre-saline, but not the guaranteed 7,500 GP that a lot of people thought. Probably the biggest loser here has to be the regular plank. This one was absolutely wild how overinflated it was. This item went up to 1,000 GP for a regular plank. But yeah, it turns out the regular plank, you only need it for the first couple upgrades, and most people are speeding past that very quickly. Planks are now back to like 2021 levels. Oak plank didn't fare much better. It's back down to 360. Teak plank as well, spiked up to 2k each and now is down to 700, which is the lowest price of the quarter. And mahogany planks, same deal, immediately fell with saline back to about 1900. Now bars fared a bit better, mainly because you actually do need a significant amount of them to make the large parts for your sloop. And another big loser, the Dragon Harpoon, spiked up to 5 mil pre-update, immediately tanked by 50%, which is mostly comes down to the fact that the Harpoon is not really used in saline training at all, so yeah, not sure what happened there. Okay, now it's finally time to look at some of the new items because there are a lot of them, hundreds of new ones to be precise. Now the single most expensive one right now is actually the Broken Dragon Hook. Now as with any of the new items, they are really in a state of uncertainty right now. The saline release was reasonably smooth, but it seems likely there will be some pretty significant changes to the skill and how you acquire many of these items. For example, the Broken Dragon Hook is used to create the Dragon Salvaging Hook, but currently there's only one crewmate that can even use this hook, and it's a very minimal upgrade over the Rune Hook. And also currently the way you acquire this is through ship combat, and the whole ship combat system, personally I think is going to be improved and probably made a bit quicker to kill some of these monsters. Right now though, the Broken Dragon Hook is sitting at about 50 mil, and although more and more people are killing the Great White Shark every day, also more people are getting higher saline levels and actually wanting one of these items. So it's hard to tell if the demand or supply is increasing faster. Another expensive item is the Bottled Storm. This is required to build the Greater Teleport Focus, which is a pretty useful higher end saline item, and you can only get it from the higher level Krakens, and they're very slow to kill. But are more people getting their ship ready, higher cannons to kill these Krakens, or are more people wanting the teleport focus? Well, for now, it seems to have actually evened out at about 40 mil for a Bottled Storm. Okay, a lie. There actually was a more expensive item than the Broken Harpoon, and it's actually the Angler's Paint. This item is so rare, just a pure cosmetic item you get from deep sea trawling, and currently it's going for 300 mil. You can use it also to make the Merchant's Paint, which is essentially the same price, very, very expensive. Some of the other late game dragon upgrades for your boat are still reasonably expensive. We have the large dragon keel parts going for about 10 mil. The dragon cannon barrel, which is dropping pretty fast because you get this thing from salvaging, and salvaging is by far the most popular training method with saline. It's down to about 10 mil right now. We have Bell's Folly, which you can get from the Shellbane Griffin. This thing's dropping fast and for good reason. This was only this expensive because of its rarity and undersupply. The Bell's Folly, I think, is just worse than the Zombie Axe, and the Zombie Axe is half the price, so it's going to be dropping pretty fast. We have the Aquanite Hopper, which is also dropping incredibly fast this week. For kind of a similar reason, most of the new actual PVM items they introduced are very, very minor upgrades at best, or not even better than a similar level item. Like the Aquanite Hopper apparently is essentially as good as an Antler Guard. I haven't checked that, but the Hopper is an incredibly minor mid-game upgrade for ranged. Hard to say how far this is going to fall, but I don't think it's hit its floor yet. And probably the two most interesting items right now to me are actually the Dragon Metal Sheet and the Dragon Nail. Now this is because these two items are integral for all late game shipbuilding, and everybody will need some of these if they want to level up their boat to the Rosewood tiers. But there's a huge bottleneck on these items because the only viable way to really get them is Frost Dragons. Yes, you can get them from other sources like Krakens, Lava Strike Worms, but they're either way rarer or annoying to kill. So everyone's camping frost dragons, but currently there's a huge bottleneck because there's only 6 frost dragons per world, and every single world has multiple people trying to camp each frost dragon because they're such good money. So their price hasn't actually moved much since last week because of the high demand for this item, but we will have to see on Wednesday if they add in more dragons or add in a Slayer only area, something like that could drastically increase the supply. But if they change nothing, I would actually expect these to maybe go up over time. Alright, it's me from the future, guys. Jagex just released the Wednesday update, and surprisingly, no actual big changes to frost dragons. In fact, the price has doubled because the supply is definitely not getting increased due to the changes today. They added in a Slayer only area for frost dragons, but the task is still pretty rare, so there's still a huge bottleneck on the metal sheet, so it is skyrocketed today. Now, not all the new items were high value, rare items. They introduced a ton of resource items as well, starting with the new cannonballs. Those are pretty interesting. Cannonballs are pretty rare to get as drops or anything, and crafting them from the existing bar, also very expensive. And you actually blow through cannonballs because there's no Ava's device for your boat. So Adamant cannonballs dropped from about 1,000 each down to 550. Rune cannonballs dropped a significant amount as well, 3,200 at the beginning of the week down to 1,300, and dragon cannonballs are down to 3,400 right now. Now keep in mind, nobody is smithing cannonballs. Right now, smithing this rune cannonball would lose you like 50%. So what that kind of means is there's nothing that's worth spending this much money on cannonballs for. So the current supply is just from PVM drops, pretty much. Now we have the 3 new shipbuilding planks. We have the Camp 4 plank, which is at about 4,600 right now. The Ironwood plank, which is at about 6,100, and Rosewood at about 6,700. Very, very close in price, actually. You might be wondering, how are people selling rosewood planks for under 7,000 GP when they allegedly cost 7,500 GP minimum at the sawmill? Well, it mostly comes down to the fact that sawmill vouchers exist and have fallen in price quite a lot. We have the 2 new bars as well. We have the Copperdickle bar, which has fallen to about 5,000 already, and the lead bar, which is kind of coasting around 1,200 GP. Now, besides some of the more acute losses due to like items being directly hyped up due to saline, generally the market as a whole is also continuing a pretty long-term downtrend, and that is in no small part due to saline. Saline is pretty isolated currently. It doesn't really use many resources from the existing game. Like, sure, it uses some planks, bars, whatever, but a lot of it is self-contained, and it's not really a PVM update. So a lot of PVM items are in pretty dire straits right now, like the Void Waker down to 30 mil. Super, super cheap. Dragon Claws down to 46 mil. The Dragon Warhammer is nearing a 10 mil price point right now. Obviously, some of these items do have other factors, like there are competing items for these now. Warhammer is crashing quite hard right now. The Tormented Synapse, finally there is no Demon Bane weakness on the horizon. Synapses are down to 13 mil each, falling about double this month. And Vernic Treads, which is a new item to be fair, is continuing to fall. The treads are down to 172 mil. The Mega Rares are actually holding a pretty consistent price, but the Shadow kind of evened out at an 800 mil price point. Maybe partially helped out that people were using these to kill sea monsters. The Twisted Bow has fallen 100, 200 mil or something, but still holding pretty steady at 1.4 bill, and the Scythe, same thing, fell a bit, but still around 1.4 bill. So not too much movement in Mega Rares, to be honest. And I think that is mostly helped out by the fact that, sure, saline is a little expensive, but there aren't any really expensive items you need to invest in that would require you to sell off a Mega Rare or another valuable item. All the new PVM items are relatively cheap, and the price of saline resources are falling quite quickly. Anyway guys, that's going to be it for today. There's a ton of new items. I didn't cover all of them, obviously, but that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.